With the video we were explaining last time of ancient Rome, okay?
Okay.
Disintegrating empire of Alexander, but the patriarchal simplicity of Rome succumbed to the sophisticated Greek culture. Greek became, in effect, a second state language. The Roman nobility busied itself learning new words, hexameter, history, rhetoric. Cicero, the most famed orator of Rome, would come to model his speeches on those of the Greek Demosthenes. However, across this immense territory, full rights were only afforded to the Romans themselves. Even other Italians, the majority of the military, had no citizenship rights. These would demand equality, declare war, and win the right to take part in managing the state. This was a total game changer. While ancient Greece remained a collection of squabbling city-states, Rome gradually extended citizenship rights to the conquered, laying down the basis for an empire.
Hey, copy that. This is the next part, guys.
Rome gradually extended citizenship rights to the conquered, laying down the basis for an empire.
This part, okay? The civil wars and the fall of the republic. This is the next part. Yes, of course, sir.
Wait.
Until what part did we stay last time, Swani? What we copy?
Until part 3, the expansion of Rome.
But you already copied the important things of that one, right? Part 3.
Yes.
Okay, so now we go into part 4. The civil wars and the fall of the republic.
Having conquered half the world, Rome fell victim to globalization. Cheap grain and an inflow of unpaid slave labor bankrupted the small farmers. These rushed into the cities and joined the ranks of the proletariat, those who have nothing to lose except their own offspring. At the same time, the rich grew 100 times richer, having bought land from the ruined peasants for a song. Previously united, the Senate and the Roman people split into two hostile camps. The tribunes of the people, the Gracchi brothers, would try to reconcile them. They proposed granting excess public lands to the impoverished peasants and suggested free distributions of bread to the poor. The disgruntled senators decided to suppress the Gracchi movement by force, killing the brothers and several thousand of their allies. Rome was gripped by civil wars. Social mobility for the proletariat was offered by Gaius Marius, a popular general. He began enrolling the proletariat into the army with a promise of a grant of land at the end of service. This would make the legions personally devoted to their generals. In 49 BC, two outstanding generals fought over Rome. Cnaeus Pompeius had won the eastern provinces for Rome, including restless Judea, cleared the Mediterranean of piracy, defeated Spartacus' slave revolt, and justifiably added the title Great to his name. Gaius Julius Caesar had conquered Gaul. Nowadays, they would call it genocide. He butchered 1 million Gauls and enslaved as many more. He went on to defeat the Germans and then invaded Britain. According to the law, a general had to dismiss his legions before returning to Rome, and in return have his moment of glory, a triumphal entry into the capital to the applause of the citizens. Caesar performed a hitherto unseen maneuver. He refused to submit to the Senate, and having crossed the Italian border, the river Rubicon, marched his legions to Rome. It would take him several years to defeat Pompey the Great and his other rivals, pitting Roman legions against each other. In the process, Caesar annexed new territories and gave Cleopatra the Egyptian throne. After a romantic cruise along the Nile, she would give birth to Caesarion, or...
In this moment, guys, what you have to be clear is that in this moment, Julius Caesar was the greatest like gladiator or emperor In this moment, still they're not called that way emperors. But if you see, comparing the majority of the places around the world in the Mediterranean place. So this, what happens with this moment? Well, he gains a lot of power and he gains into love with Cleopatra. Cleopatra and him were one. So remember that when you are in love, something like that, he gained all the power to Cleopatra. So Julius Caesar get in love with Cleopatra and he gained the power to her.
Little Caesar. On his return, Caesar would add imperator or emperor to his name, title originally meaning victorious commander, and gain control of all political positions, consul, tribune of the people, and dictator. Rumor spread that Caesar wanted to declare himself king. Conspiracy was brewing in the Senate, and Caesar was assassinated. Caesar left his wealth, quite unexpectedly for all concerned, to his grandnephew, 19-year-old Gaius Octavius. This Octavian immediately joined in the power struggle. In 31 BC, he defeated his last rival, the warlord Mark Antony, who likewise had an affair with Cleopatra. The lovers would take their own lives. Octavian was left sole ruler of a vast territory.
Okay, so like I resume or like a summary in part number 4, the Republic get down because it starts with the emperors or the imperator. In this case, the first imperator was whom? The first man that professed himself as an imperator, who was? Julius Caesar, exactly, Julius Caesar. But Julius Caesar was killed. Was killed, why? Because he was thinking in be like a king and a dictatorship. He was having a dictatorship. So do you remember that at the beginning of Rome, they were in a monarchy, right? But what happened when the kings were over there? What a disaster. So what does the Romans did for not happening another time to have a king? What do they create?
The Senate.
Exactly, the Senate. And what was that? It was like a group of people that decides, not only the king, like he was like a president or something like that in the Republic time, but they need a Congress, they need a Senate. But what happened when Julius Caesar get a lot of power? He started gaining the power and he proclaimed himself as an emperor. So that means that the people start getting scared because they feel that he will try to be like a king and he will try to be dictators, have a dictators. So in this moment, look, starts the empire. Who took the place of Julius Caesar? Octavius. He was the one that take the place. Octavius was the name. That is important, guys. Okay, let's continue in part number 5, Empire, the age of August. August is one of the most famous emperators in Roman times, okay?
Morning, mister.
Good morning, Diego.
I was without electricity, mister.
Yes, okay, this doesn't matter. I'm recording also the class.
Okay.
Okay, part number 5, guys, the Empire, the age of August.
Julius Caesar ruled for 4 years. Octavian, assuming the title Augustus, meaning the Venerable or the Great, ruled for an endless 43 years. He didn't formally abolish the Republic, he simply took control of all possible positions, making his power almost absolute. But he modestly called himself Princeps, the first senator. And even though skirmishes with barbarians continued along the borders, inside them the period of Pax Romana set in, a period of peace and stability that was to last 200 years. The empire experienced an economic upswing. Bread was distributed for free to 200,000 people. On Augustus' orders, a 500-meter basin was dug at the very center of the capital, where 3,000 gladiators mimicked sea battles on real seagoing vessels. In Rome, construction was booming. Concrete and multi-story districts were growing. Augustus had to introduce height regulations, limiting skyscrapers to 6 floors. And still the citizens were unhappy. They complained about traffic jams, pollution of the waters of the Tiber, and high rents. The golden century of poetry dawned. Maecenas, a quasi-minister of culture, allocated special grants to praise the value of the state. Temples would be built in the honor of poetry.
Okay, guys, this is really important. I will give you a homework. You will look for the biography of Virgil, Horace, and also of Maecenas. Maecenas was like a person that patronized, like a sponsor, these authors that write poetry. He was a rich man. He was a person that had a lot of money, and he starts like giving money to Virgil, Horace, for them to write, and also he sustained them, okay? He sustained them with money, with food, with a house and everything for them to write. So write the 3 names of the persons that you're gonna look for the biography of them, okay? Virgil, Horace, and Maecenas.
Virgil.
Horace and Maecenas.
Or do you write Horace? The biography, bro.
Them, yes, of them.
Dawn. Maecenas, a quasi-minister of culture, allocated special grants to praise the value of the state. Temples would be built in the honor of Augustus, and even a month was named after him. Thus, the cult of the Roman emperors was emerging. They would come to be venerated alongside Mars and Jupiter.
Okay, so in that moment, in the period of the August was one of the most biggest emperators. August. So after he dies, all the emperors, they start calling themselves August. So it was like a title, like president or something. So August Octavius or August Caesar. So in that case, they just put like the title of August is the same as calling themselves emperators or emperors. Do you understand this?
Yes.
Also, we have the month August, that is basically because him. That's why we have that name in our months. Now, in the part, we're going to start with the first emperor from the 14 after Christ and the 96 after Christ.
After Augustus' power became hereditary.
Okay. Look, these are one of the famous emperors in ancient. So please, can you write the names of August was the first one, Octavius, August, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. Nero was one of the crazy. Just for a brief explanation, Nero, he was bad at playing games, Olympic games. Do you remember who brought this culture to Rome? Who was the first ones to apply this type of games, Olympic games? How was that civilization? Who was the civilization that starts with the Olympic games? The last one that we saw? Civilization. The Greeks. The Greeks were the first ones to apply the Olympic Games. So Nero, he was really bad in fighting in horses, or all the type of Olympic Games. So what he does is that everybody was scared because he was the emperor. He was the emperor. So everybody leave him to win. Everybody leave him to win. So he was really happy because he was like the powerful man. But the people leave him to win. Why? Because they were scared. So that is like an anecdote of Nero. He was really crazy, and he killed the people. People that was not agree with him, he sent it to kill. So that's why people leave him to win, right? You read a copy of the emperors, the first emperors?
Wait.
August, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. They were the first emperors.
The senatorial opposition has left us vivid portraits of the first emperors. Suspicious Tiberius unleashed terror under the pretext of the law on treason. Under this law, any action could be deemed offensive. It was enough not to sufficiently praise the emperor or pay at a brothel with coins bearing his portrait. In distant Judea, a preacher refusing to worship the emperor as God was crucified. Caligula wanted to make his horse a consul. A scholar and gourmet, Claudius, was too occupied with feasting and the reforming of the alphabet to keep an eye on court intrigue. One of his wives, Messalina, was giving women of easy virtue a run for their money in the brothels, and the other, Agrippina, poisoned Claudius with mushrooms to enthrone her son from another marriage, Nero. Nero, believing that he was a born actor, not an emperor, would later kill his own mother, and then allegedly the apostles Peter and Paul. Then he again, allegedly, set fire to Rome so as to read the verses on the fall of Troy during the blaze. He would accuse the first Christians of arson.
He set fire to all Rome, and also he killed his own mother. So do you think that the people will not be scared about him? Of course. So that's why the people, when he was trying to play the Olympic Games, they was just leaving him to win.
And initiated their persecution. And finally, he took his own life. Most details of this era are known from Tacitus, a historian and senator who observed the degradation of republican institutions. Fate of the empire was now decided not so much by the Senate as by the Praetorian Guards, the emperor's personal security force, created back in the times of Augustus. These suffocated Tiberius with a cushion, slayed Caligula by the sword, and hailed Claudius emperor. In all fairness, at the same time, the empire grew, expanding into new territories. Roman legions conquered part of Britain, where they founded a town called Londinium. Provinces were given a transparent taxation system.
Guys, if you see all here, all the map, imagine how big was Rome. Do you imagine how was the power of Rome in this time? Look. So look until Great Britain, until that place they were. So imagine all these friends, Italy, Germany, Asia, parts of also Ocean. Well, imagine how extensive was the power of Rome in this time. Look, they found this place, Londinium. What place do you think is nowadays Londinium? In Great Britain?
London.
London, exactly. So imagine until what place was Rome, the Roman Empire. So in a statistic or in the place, do you think that Rome was bigger than the Greek one? Obviously, yes. They were immensely. Yes, they were bigger than that.
and the non-Roman nobility began to enter the Senate en masse. A grandchild of an Italian peasant, Vespasian Flavius would become the founder of the next dynasty. Vespasian and Titus, suppressing the uprising in Judea, committed genocide, again according to modern-day, not Roman standards, and reduced the Temple of Jerusalem to nothing but the Wailing Wall. On a lighter note, Vespasian had a jolly good Roman predisposition. He taxed the collectors of urine at the public toilets. And Titus, the destroyer of Jerusalem, would nevertheless obtain the title of Merciful. After a splendid triumph, he opened the Colosseum for the people. Titus would be called the love and consolation of humankind. And after such festivities had depleted the public treasury, Vesuvius destroyed Pompeii, plague devastated half Italy, and Titus became a god.
So in the time, guys, of the first emperors, the next family that was after the August, the 5 that you copy, after that, it starts another family, rise in the power. That was the Flavius, and they called Flavius. The Flavius were another family that were emperors, and that give like the most excellent power to Rome. Okay. Now let's go to the next part. Is the height of the empire, like the peak of the empire.
The 2nd century would go down in history as the era of the good emperors.
These ones are called the god emperors. You're gonna see right now.
The 2nd century.
These ones, look, they were almost as gods. They think that themselves were like gods. So you can copy, please, about also these other emperors: Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antonius Pius, and Marco Aurelius. Marco Aurelius will be one of the most famous because also he was a writer. These are another part of emperors. You finish copying?
Yes.
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 I put you to copy all these guys because this is coming in exam.
Would go down in history as the era of the good emperors. Trajan was considered by his contemporaries the best emperor ever. Rome became a million-strong city, and the empire reached its largest extent. Rome connected her new territories via a network of paved roads. This system still determines the transport map of Europe. After Trajan's conquest, Hadrian busied himself with defense, erecting massive fortifications in Britain and between the Rhine and the Danube. Pantheon was built in Rome, the first temple to be topped by a massive dome, a real architectural sensation of the day, dedicated to all the gods. Hadrian would also include his lover among them, the young Antinius. More of his images have survived than of any Roman. The last good emperor, the throned philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, would spend most of his reign on military expeditions. In between battles, he wrote his manifesto for Stoic philosophy, Meditations.
As all the empires, guys, we already know that they will end. In a time, they will end. So in this moment, from the 180 after Christ to the 305 after Christ, they start having problems in the empire. The last, and this is something that you must copy, the last greatest emperor in the Roman Empire was Marcus Aurelius. After Marcus Aurelius' death, the empire starts getting bad. After Marcus Aurelius' empire, the Roman Empire starts getting down, starts in decadence or the crisis. We're gonna see right now.
It was under Marcus Aurelius' son, Commodus, that the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, came to an end. He preferred a gladiator's glory to the affairs of state. Conspirators had the emperor strangled by a fellow fighter, the slave Narcissus. Rome sank into chaos. The next 100 years brought a sequence of random emperors proclaimed by the army. Taking their turn on the throne were a liberated slave, a fortune seeker who bought the throne at an auction, General Punic descent who would place statues of the former enemy, Hannibal all over the empire, a Syrian priest of the sun, and a former shepherd who owed his popularity to his powerful physique. In 212, Emperor Caracalla, half North African, half Syrian, granted Roman citizenship to nearly all free subjects of the empire. The idea that you could be a Roman in Judea, in Africa, or any other corner of the empire at all might well be the main legacy of Rome still in use today. By mid-century, Rome was already in the midst of such a crisis that the whole provinces were starting to split off. The Gauls, for instance, proclaimed an empire of their own. Order would be restored by the son of a liberated slave, Diocletian. Having started his career as a soldier, he would end up an absolute monarch, an astonishing example of social mobility. Diocletian split the empire into four, with four co-rulers at four capitals, situated closer to the frontier. Rome lost its significance. The Senate became a town council. The country was now ruled by an army of officials personally reporting to the emperor. Thus, the ancient world, centered around the concept of a free community and free citizens, came to an end. From the princeps, the first senator, the emperor had become the dominus, a title by which slaves addressed their masters. The citizen became a subject, the warrior turned into a soldier, and the farmer a semi-serf. Diocletian himself resigned from the post of emperor 20 years later and went off to his estate to grow cabbages. After Diocletian's departure, the co-rulers were fighting for power. Constantine, the future Saint Constantine the Great, emerging victorious. Before the crucial battle for Rome, he allegedly had a vision of a cross. After this, he made all religions equal. After 300 years of persecutions, the Christians came out of the catacombs and were now entitled to build churches alongside the temples of Augustus and Mars. Constantine would take the cross from Jerusalem to the new capital of the Roman Empire, Constantinople. Theodosius.
Okay, guys, so the great Constantine, well, you have a scene in social studies and everything. He was one of the most important, or the last in the Roman Empire, because he makes, I'm explaining this, guys, because you must copy. Constantine was the first emperor, or the most important emperor, in which he says that all religions was the same. Catholics, Christians, they were the same. So they do not, because before of that time, the Christians were killed. Catholics. They were not having to be freedom. So Constantine changed the capital to Constantinople, or to Constantinople. Over there, guys, do you remember that that happens? That in time, in history, we say that the fall of Constantinople was a part of also of the antique age. So Constantine, please put the name of him. That you must look for the. Also here is look. Constantine was the name of him. So you have to look for the biography of him too.
Victim to the great migration of peoples, Rome, founded by migrants, would fall to the onslaught of a new wave of refugees. Ironically, the last ruler of Rome would be called Romulus.
Look, guys, the last emperor
would fall to the onslaught of a new wave of refugees. Ironically, the last ruler of Rome would be called
Romulus Augustus is the last name. Well, it's the name of the
great migration of peoples. Rome, founded by migrants, would fall to the onslaught of a new wave of refugees. Ironically,
there's the name of him for you to copy.
The
Romulus Augustus. That was the last emperor. And why is ironic this name, guys? Why do you think it's kind of ironic? Where do I told you that was that name, Romulus? Who was Romulus?
That come from Rome.
Huh?
That come from Rome, Romulus.
Hi, but who was Romulus?
Romulus.
Somebody that remember that I explained this, if I put it in exam, so?
Who was Romulus?
He was?
He was
One of the
first
founders.
kind of
Exactly. He
The
was
founder
one
of
of
Rome.
the founders, exactly. Who was the founders? Romulus and Remus. They were brothers. And imagine that the Roman Empire ends with somebody that is called Romulus Augustulus. It's kind of mysterious, right? It's really strange because you see Romulus, he started and with somebody with the same name. Well, not the Greek same name, but Romulus Augustulus. So with he ends. So in the 476 after Christ, guys, the Roman Empire of the occidental part, they get down at 476. The Roman Empire of Occidental, okay? Not of Oriental. Oriental is the one that has Constantine, okay? Constantine. Exactly. That empire doesn't end in this time, in 476.
The last ruler of Rome would be called Romulus. In modern Rome, not far from the Colosseum, in the ruins of the Forum, there is a tomb. Its occupant was neither emperor nor senator, but a simple baker called Ulysses. Likely born a slave into a family of Greek migrants, he later entered into a bread supply contract with the capital and became so rich that he could build such a monument for himself and his wife. Before Rome, in ancient Egypt and elsewhere, or after Rome during the Middle Ages, a man would die in the same station in life as he had been born in. The life and career of Ulysses is an answer to the question of how Rome was able to create a global state that lasted over 1,000 years.
Well, guys, so this video ends until the end of the Roman Empire of Occidental. The power of Rome was really, really incredible, but everything has an end. Everything has an end. So also the Roman Empire has an end. So the homework, guys, the homework that you're gonna do right now, not right, but for the biography of all the men that you copy from the first emperor and the other 5, and also of Constantine. You're gonna look for the biography of all of them. You're gonna make like an album, okay? Like an album. You're gonna make like an album.
In bond pages.
You're gonna make it in this way. You're gonna make it in group, okay? You're gonna make it in group. So Jafet, Suani, you, Carlos, you're gonna make a complete a report, like a album. You're gonna make it in Word, okay? You're gonna make it in Word. You're gonna look for the biographies of them, the important things that they did. And also, guys, you're gonna make like a summary of all the history of ancient Rome. Of all the history that we have seen, you're gonna make like a summary, okay? How many pages must have that homework? Well, at least you must have 7 pages of work, 7 or 8 pages. That's the minimum, okay? How are you gonna do the report? Okay, you remember that in the report, you have to put a cover sheet. You're gonna do a cover sheet. You're gonna do a cover sheet. Also, you have to start, for example, biographies, and you start listing The first biography is of Julius Caesar or something like that. And then you put all the biography. Then leave a space, biography of the other, so on. At the end, when you finish listing all the emperors and all the biographies, what you're gonna do, guys, is that you're gonna make a summary of everything of the Roman Empire, of the most important things, okay? The resume must be at least of 1 page, 1 complete page.
Okay,
The
Mr.
summary.
Word.
Mr. But the biographies of which character? Virgil?
Of the ones that I told you, Virgil, Horace, they are writers. So you have to put the emperors that are the 5 that you copy, and later the other 5, and Horace and Virgil are poets, so you can put them separated. Okay, you can separate them, and after you finish with a summary of all the ancient Rome, why does the ancient Rome was so important, everything of them, okay? Like a summary of all the empire. Is that clear?
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
the due date of the homework, or the day that you have to present it, is for next, let me see, for next Friday, okay? I'm gonna give you a lot of time for next Friday.
Mr. But the
Friday.
groups, how?
The what?
The groups, you say in groups, right?
Yes, all of you, you're gonna be the same group. All of you, you're gonna show me just 1 report, 1 homework. Okay? So divide the biographies for everybody to look for the biographies. Okay? Is not copy paste the biographies. Please, I don't want copy paste from Wikipedia. Even though you don't have to use Wikipedia, please avoid to use Wikipedia, please.
Okay.
Make me that favor. You don't have to copy, you have to type in Word, okay? You have to resume the biographies. You don't have to put 2 pages per each biography. Remember that the majority of the extension will be like 8 pages at the most. So divide the biographies by each one of you. You say, funny, Diego, you have to research about these 3 biographies, Jafet of these 3, Carlos of these 3, and I of these 3. And then you paste it all in 1 whole document. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to put images, you can put images also. It's up to you.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Well, that's everything for today, guys. Thank you.
Okay, Mr.
And